This is Soapbox Radio. Potting it out there with my lime boots. The Lifestyle Edit.
Hey guys, it's Ryan. It's 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, Soapbox Radio, and today we're doing a lifestyle edit. We're having a chat to a great friend of mine who I've been wanting to have in studio for quite a while, and we managed to correlate diaries and things that are happening in our lives, and today is the day that we're actually doing it. Ava Schwartz, who I'll be introducing to you shortly, has an amazing story, which we'll get into shortly. One of hope and one of which is a true testament, I believe, to the goodness of God and what the Lord can really, really do in your life. So let me start by giving you guys a bit of background. Ava was born in Grabo in the Western Cape, a little town known for their apples. He had an upbringing typical of his area, poor, rife with street violence and a fatherless home. Ava's father died when he was young, so his older brother Dion took charge of the house. Dion was a tough man, made hard by the life in Grabo. He was abusive to his family and drank heavily. Between the ages of 16 and 21, Ava was incarcerated for theft. Ava was released in December 2015 after serving his sentence and describes his first day out as being more lonely and scary than even a single minute in solitary confinement. Ava is currently the youth pastor at St. Paul's United Church here in Joburg. Ava Schwartz, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for this, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity to come and chat and share my story with you and with the listeners.
Yeah, 100%. Have I summed you up correctly with my introduction there?
That was perfect. I think I should keep that recording for future speaking engagements.
There we go. I can send it off to you. Ava, tell me, what are your earliest memories of growing up in Grabo?
Grabo is back in the day when I grew up in the 80s, 90s in Grabo, it was a complete dusty town, dusty street. So some of my earliest memories was everyone in the community knew each other. So you borrow sugar from the neighbors and you wash each other laundry and you look after each other, borrow washing material and so on. And the kids play cricket in the streets with bats that they've made and tires as the wickets and so. Sure. And so it was a real community sense of living despite the poverty, despite the hardship. Everyone was connected to each other, and those are some of the memories that will always stay with me, that there was a sense of communal living, a sense of connectedness that you don't find in bigger cities, so to speak.
Yeah, very true. You talk about poverty and growing up in poverty. I don't think we understand that when we're growing up that is poverty. We just know that is our situation and that is our normal. And I think it's quite an experience to grow up in a situation like that and in a space that encourages that sense of community. Yeah,
I mean, you don't have a choice to other than to live in community with others, because if you live an isolated life, if you live as if people around you are not struggling on going through the same things that you go through, it's hard. You've got to understand that we are all in this together and we need to help, and that's all you know. So you don't know any other kind of lifestyle.
Yeah. Do you ever go back to Grabo, Ava?
Yeah, I do. Every time I have a trip to the Cape, I make a plan to go home and to meet with some of my friends, to meet with my family, to meet with my daughter specifically. So I still try to be intentional in going back and stay connected to the roots.
Have you got a large family in Grabo? You come from a large family?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a large family. I had besides my younger brother and older brother, also had two older sisters.
Okay.
One who had passed on and one who's still in Grabo. Okay. And but we weren't a close knit family. Like everyone did their own thing. Everyone lived by their own rules. But I'm the only, shall I say, responsible one left of the family. No parents, no other siblings, just my younger brother and my one sister who's really struggling. She's very ill. Really? And so I'm the responsible one, and that's why I still stay connected to them and so
a complete turnaround really in your life, which is really what I want to tap into today. Ava, hats off to you. You brought your Simon and Mary hat, but hats off to you for being so open and being so honest about things that have happened in your life, and I'm really looking to delving into that with you. Guys, please do send us your questions and comments for Ava on my Facebook or Twitter account. We'll be back with Ava shortly.
You're tuned in to Soapbox Radio. Potting it out there with my lime boots. Share your thoughts and be part of the show now. Send a message on Twitter or Facebook at My Lime Boots. Find My Lime Boots on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at My Lime Boots, and on YouTube at My Lime Boots Live.
So I'm live with Ava Schwartz this afternoon here at the studios 27 Boxes in Melville on Soapbox Radio. Ava, as I was saying just now, you speak very openly about your past and spending time in prison. What are some of the memories that stay with you today from those days in prison?
Sure. I often say to people, Ryan, in talks and in speeches that I do, that it's one of those things that you won't wish on your worst enemy. It's just when people ask you, what is your definition of what hell looks like? That would be the closest. That would be the closest definition for me. And I mean, prison also had a sense of community, but that was only within the 3 different gangs that are in prison. There's 3 different gangs in prison. And so you're in community with a gang, but then you constantly sort of fight or flight, survival of the fittest. In the different gangs. And so my entire time I was in prison for a full 5 years of my 6 years 6 months sentence. All of that was literally every day of, if you don't beat, you get beaten up. You know, so it's always the fastest live the longest kind of life.
So is that really what stays with you to this day? That survival of the fittest, really?
Yeah,
I think fastest on this situation.
Yeah, I think it built a resilience in me that, you know, if I've made it through all of that. Every time I'm faced with a difficult situation, with a challenging situation, I remind myself, you stuck through 5 years of extreme, you know, danger. You can do this as well.
Okay. Ava, do you want to maybe just briefly take us through the reason that you landed up in prison?
I was convicted and sentenced for theft and robbery and housebreaking and theft. And so when I left, I left my mom's house when I was about 15 years old. And to form we formed a little gang on the street, my friends and I, and every day our whole outlook on life was to get money for Mandrakes. Back then, crystal meth didn't exist in those areas, and so every day we would break into people's homes, try and rob people on the streets. Weekends we would, you know, people on their way to a club or whatever, we'd rob them of their money, their clothes, and so on. And so it's for a whole list of things that I ended up going to prison for.
All right, Ava, you coined the term the art of suffering. Which really interests me, and I think I understand what you're getting at. Do you want to maybe talk us through that concept?
Ryan, I speak of the art of suffering in the sense that we all in some level of our lives and at some point of our lives we experience loss, we experience tragedy, we experience difficult forms of suffering. And when we embrace those spaces, that those experiences with a sense of, if I use this, if I go through this in a healthy way, if I move through this in a way that will bring me healthy to the other side, this can be useful.
Sure.
So it's all about knowing that I'm going through suffering, knowing that this can be useful, and then not forgetting any of that experiences, not to make you bitter and jealous and angry and hateful towards others and those who impose the suffering, but then get to the other side and use it as a vehicle for someone else's healing, for someone else's well-being in the end.
That's a monumental concept. I mean, I think anyone in their rational frame of mind, if you present that to them, would say, yes, that's 100% correct. But put yourself in that situation, and we've all been there to varying degrees. When you are in a situation where you're suffering, you're not generally in the best frame of mind. You're not at your best. So to make a mature decision like that, to think, despite this oppression or the suffering that I'm going through, I'm going to look at the best. I think the natural thing at that point is to blame, point fingers, never look deep inside yourself. And I think, you know, situations are always about what's happening within as opposed to what other people are imposing upon you.
And that's why it's an art for me. That's why it takes skill, it takes a level of maturity, it takes a level of looking not at the situation as an isolated incident, but looking at the situation from a point of, this happened to me, this hurt me and scarred me deeply, but what are the possibilities of when I get to the other side of this?
Sure.
So it's looking at the whole
The
thing.
big picture.
Yeah.
Was this something that you came across while you were in prison? Is this a technique that you used to survive in prison, or is this something that is after the fact you've sort of condensed your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I can honestly say this. My mind never went to any of this. My mind was just constantly in survival mode in prison. There was no time to process feelings, to process thoughts. You know, I suffered heavy depression in prison, but you can never articulate or talk about it because you're supposed to show strength. You can't show weakness.
Would have been seen a sign of weakness, I'm sure.
You can't show weakness. And so I was just constantly in survival mode. Never had time to really look into myself, into these situations.
At the time this all happened in your life when you went to prison, were you going to school before then, or had you stopped going to school at that point?
Yeah, before prison, I dropped out of school about a year and a half before I went to prison, simply because at some point, as every kid, you have a dream. You want to become something. For me, that was to study medicine because my younger brother and I, we were some of the smartest in our school. I mean, it was a poor school, but we were some of the smartest in the school. And so I had this big dream that if I become a doctor, I'll get my family out of poverty. Yeah. But then I grew up and with all the pressure and all the suffering and all the abuse from my older brother, I realized that these are just pipe dreams. People in poverty, people who live in our area called the ghetto, our area was called the Gaiki, which was the ghetto, the whole. So our people in our area, you never get out. So who was I, you know? So I just let go of that dream. And so I never finished school outside. It was only in prison when I realized there's an opportunity to finish school.
So there was an opportunity for you to finish and matriculate?
In prison, yes. Under all those circumstances, in amongst the gang activities, I realized that maybe I'm going to be here for 5 years, and anyway, I might as well use the opportunity. Sure. And it looks good on your record as well when you've completed matric.
So you did that, eh?
Yeah.
Well, again, hats off to you for doing that in that environment, really.
Yeah.
Ava, talk us through joining the Numbers Gang, the 26ers.
Yeah, the Numbers Gang is, people think, movies like Nume Scully, like Four Corners, those things are depictions of prison life and the Numbers Gang, but those things are just a drop in the ocean of what's really going down in it. So as you get 3 gangs. You get a 26, 27 and 28. And then each gang has their own rules and their own regulations, similar to military positions and corporals and sergeants and all that. And people see it as a real evil. And I'm out of it, so I'm not encouraging people to get into it. But it is in a lot of ways, the Numbers was formed to create order in amongst the prisons themselves, in their rooms, because the guards are not there to regulate and to say, that's not allowed, that's allowed in the rooms. And so this way of life was developed so that there can be order. But then these 3 different groups was established, and they then, with each other began to fight and to stab and to kill and to hurt. And so joining the 26, there's a long initiation process of things that you have to do, and I won't, it's quite a difficult thing for me to sometimes talk about. But there's a whole initiation process to prove that you've got the heart and the strength, and you actually lay down an oath where you actually say, and that's literally what you say, I came in here on my own 2 legs with my full understanding and with my whole heart. I realized that there's only one way in, which is on my feet, and only one way out. It's on my back when I die. And then someone asks you, do you still want to go through with this? That's literally what they ask. Then that's your only chance to say no. And if you say yes, then you're basically in a very similar way as we as followers of Jesus say, we lay down our lives when we baptize. We lay down our lives for Christ. In that very same way, you say, yes, I'm still keen to do this. And you literally lay down everything of yourself for the sake of the Numbers.
Of the gang, eh?
Yeah.
Sure. Frightening. I don't think we understand
it's scary.
the half of it. I don't think we understand that, like you say, it's a drop in the ocean, you know. Guys, we're coming back shortly with Ava to talk a little bit more and really want to focus on coming out of prison, and that's where your real story starts. Yes. I mean, obviously prison was part of it, but that's where the true inspiration is. We'll be back shortly.
You're tuned in to Soapbox Radio. Podding it out there with My Line Boots. Share your thoughts and be part of the show now. Send a message on Twitter or Facebook at My Line Boots. Find My Line Boots on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at My Line Boots, and on YouTube at My Line Boots Live.
Great. So, Ave, you described leaving prison as being a rather scary thing to experience, being worse than even a single minute in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Sure, talk us through that.
Sure. I
would have thought, sorry to interrupt you there, that coming out would have been something that you would have been looking forward to from the day you go in. I mean, maybe I'm just naive.
Yeah, no, I was in solitary for about 21 months because I was underage.
Sure, okay.
You need to be 18 to be in a bigger room,
and
I was underage, so I had to be in solitary for 21 months.
Sure.
And I mean, it was lonely, it was scary, it was just me, my thoughts, and I, and a little speaker box where they play music on throughout the day until 10 o'clock at night. And it was lonely. But when I came out of prison, it was a different kind of loneliness. It was a loneliness of, I have no one, I have nothing, and I need to start from zero. Knowing that no one will give me an opportunity, knowing that people look at me at a certain way, knowing that there's a label on my head and on my story that looks different from what you would expect from a normal person. And so I, for the first 3 months, actually, I felt so lonely. That I think that's why a lot of people, statistics shows it, that a lot of people in that first 3 months, they go back to prison that easily because they just can't stand the fact that there's nothing and no one for them on the outside.
And when you came out, did you go back to Grabo? Back to the family, back to society that you came from?
Yes, I went back to that very same society, looking at the very people that I took from, that I stole from, that I harmed. And you know how hurtful that was for me, because I know a part of me has changed in prison the day my mom died. 4 months before I was released, my mom passed away in prison. And I know how much I want to correct things, but no one want to give me opportunity to make amends.
So is that really, I mean, that label that people put on your head afterwards, is that the case all the time? I mean, since I've met you, and I didn't mention in the introduction, but I've known you about 2 years now.
Yeah.
My friend Owen is your friend Owen, and he introduced me to you. One day we went to Monte Casino, started a beer fest, and I knew exactly what your story was right from the beginning. But I've never looked at you in that way. I've never thought anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Is that really your experience from the majority of people when you tell them your story?
Not where, if people see where I'm at now, they will never, they will love and accept and care for me from where I'm at. But I think a lot of guys coming out of prison, their biggest challenge is that they first need to prove themselves before they can belong. You first need to believe, you first need to show that you are worthy of belonging here. And I think if we can create a space where people first belong, and from there, because that's what happened with me, a small church in Grabo gave me a sense of belonging without asking anything from me. And I think the struggle for a lot of people is they don't know, they've never belonged. They've moved prisons every, say, year and a half or so, and now they come outside and they still don't have belonging.
Yeah, sure. So did you find the Lord Jesus in prison?
No, I did not. The religion in prison is also very toxic. I know Kairos are doing amazing work in prison, but the religion in prison is toxic. I had a friend who went with me to the adult prison. When we turned 21, we went over to the adult prison, and he, out of fear, he became a Christian. But then he got raped in the Christian room, because there's a special room for, if you're Christians, and there's a Muslim room. But then one of the Christian brothers raped him. So I stayed as far away from religion as possible in prison. But I did meet the Lord Jesus outside when I came out.
And that has sparked a whole change in your life. Do you think that has given you the strength and the divine wisdom to reshape your life differently?
And it was an unbelievable turn of events, whereas everyone expected, give him 3 months, invest too much in him. Give him 3 months. He'll let you down. And when I experienced and encountered the love of Jesus in a very real, and I'm not in a religious, in a legalistic, in a real that, man, I've done so much wrong in my life and yet I'm forgiven. How is that possible? When I met with that, my whole life, my whole view of life started to from I need to take. Now I want to give, not need to give. I want to give back. I want to help. I want to inspire. And that fire has never left me since then.
I think when you reach that point, because I've had a similar experience in my life, your life story becomes something not to be ashamed of. And I've spoken to a friend of mine recently who was involved in less decent things, and she's come to know the Lord too, and talks about the sense of shame for her past. And I was like, strange, because I've never really felt a sense of shame for my past, and I've done some terrible things and whatnot. But it's just amazing that once you reach that point and you have that awakening and you enter into that relationship, you just can't but want to talk and share and to say, this is what the Lord's done for me in my life in this situation. Imagine what He can do for you in yours. You know?
And I think we underestimate the power of shame. I think shame is more powerful than we could ever imagine, because it's the thing that holds us back from trying anything good for our lives. Because you just work from a place of, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. You know?
Exactly. Last question on prison. Sorry, I don't want to hop on prison the whole afternoon. But what is the most important life lesson you learned coming out of that system?
That every single day is a gift. In prison, it's 7 o'clock, it's breakfast. 2 o'clock it's supper, then you wait for the next day. So there's no gift in the day. So you just go through the motions. And coming out of prison, I realized every single day is a gift. Whatever I've got going, whatever I can do, whatever I could put my hands to, it's a gift.
Yeah. Okay, great. When we come back, we're going to chat more to Ava about what he's doing at the moment and how he's used this experience for the better.
You're tuned in to Soapbox Radio. Podding it out there with My Line Boots. Share your thoughts and be part of the show now. Send a message on Twitter or Facebook at My Line Boots. Find My Line Boots on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at My Line Boots, and on YouTube at My Line Boots Live.
Great. I'm chatting live this afternoon to Ava Schwartz. Ava, I follow you on social media, and I see all the things that you get up to, in addition to your ministry work, which I think is amazing. Talk us through that. Tell us what is happening in Ava's life at the moment.
I do a lot of talks at schools specifically, because I think my story can relate to a lot of teenagers where they are at, you know. And so I've developed these curated talks for schools. I'm doing a couple of corporate talks. I've done a talk recently at Standard Bank. Wonderful. Talking about how do you become more than just a call center operator. You know, there's more in you in that. And I think just motivational speaking has become a big tool that I use to inspire people. But then I also blog, and I love writing. I love poetry. I write spoken word poems. I do here and there the odd spoken word session at a place, you know.
Okay. And you're a podcaster,
and
an amazing podcaster with an amazing record of podcasts.
Yeah, you've been
you
on the show.
Yes, we've done this before. It's interesting to swap mics on you this time, and you would have listened to me now. But okay. Ava, so tell us, what does the future hold for Ava Schwartz?
I'm busy working on a documentary on my story that's in the editing process, in the editing phase. And hopefully we'll use that as a catalyst for bigger talks and so, because I don't want to confine my story to just a Christian audience. I want to use it because in everyone there's that piece of suffering, there's that resilience, there's that hope, there's that be more. And I in future I'd love to get more into non-Christian spaces using the story God has given me, but in a way that it relates and translates to non-Christian audiences as well.
I think it's important when you work within the Christian circles or within ministry space to speak into the body and to speak to people that are not part of the Christian body. You know, there is a calling to only work within the body, but I think a story like you have is vital for anyone. You don't have to be a Christian to listen to it. You know? Does St. Paul's keep you quite busy?
Yeah.
You're the youth pastor at St. Paul's in Glen Vista?
Yeah, I mean, St. Paul's came at a time in my life when I really needed it, and gave me that break, gave me that freedom to really live out of who God has called me to be, which is to work with young people and to inspire them to live greater stories. So I'm involved with the youth. I'm also on the preaching team. I preach at least twice a month at St. Paul's, but then I also preach, other places. So sometimes I'm only at my home. Sometimes I feel like a visitor at my own church. At my own church. But they do give me the freedom because they know it's not my story, it's not their story, it's God's story in the end.
100%. What new exciting projects are you getting involved in? Are you got a few things up your sleeve?
Yeah. I'm working on a short film for World Teachers Day. It's the 5th of October. Because I've had a teacher in prison who's been an incredible mentor in my life. I talk about her in all of my talks. I put her on my Instagram. I really regarded her very high in my life. So that's coming up. But then I'm also involved in a movement called the Imagine Movement. It's a teenage movement across South Africa. We gather every year on the same weekend in 3 different locations in South Africa. We gather 10,000 teenagers and just fire them up to bring hope, to build bridges cross-culturally in South Africa. And it's an incredible movement for people to get involved in. Anyone that has some spare time can just follow us on all the social media platforms and really try and get involved in what we do, because we've got 10 million teenagers in South Africa and we're only reaching 10,000. We'd love to increase that number in the next couple of years.
Okay, so obviously a passion and a calling to work with youth. Do you think that's inspired by your experiences as a youth in Grabo?
Yeah, I think someone said it to me the other day and I used it in a sermon as well. You've got to be the mentor you needed when you were younger.
True, hey? True.
I needed someone to walk alongside me and say, hey, these things will pass. You're gonna make it. You're gonna get somewhere. And so my biggest passion, even at our youth, our whole vision at our youth is we're not out to catch the cool kids. Our youth is focused on the misfit, the rejected, the bullied, the one who've never belonged because I've never belonged.
Sure, that's powerful. I like that. Ivor, June is Youth Month here in South Africa, and with your passion for youth, what would your message be to our youth?
Young people, they are the future. It's as cliche as it sounds, but they are the future. And if we don't, we as a country, we often work from where the problem is, and then we're trying to create a solution. But if we can create a solution already for where the youth are going to be in 15, 20 years, because these kids, they have passion, they've got ideas, they've got dreams and visions that we cannot begin to imagine. When I was at a youth conference the weekend in Somerset West, and the young people, there were about 120 of them, and they are so passionate about South Africa. We think they are caught up in all the politics and the race issues, and they are so passionate about creating a South Africa where everyone has a place. And I think if we can nurture that, the youth, you guys, teenagers, you are youth, you will have a powerful revival, so to speak, in South Africa across all the borders.
Sure, very strong message, very encouraging. Ivor, it's unfortunately come to the end of our show. It feels like we've been speaking for 5 minutes. We could talk for forever here. Again, like I said to you, hats off to you, and I really pray the Lord continues to bless you and guide you and lead you along this path that He's taken you along. And it's exciting for me to have the privilege to sit on the sides and watch and engage with you like we do now. I wish you everything of the best going forward. Really nothing but blessings, nothing but opportunity and wisdom your way to carry on talking what is there in your heart. And I can see the passion, the fire in your eyes as I sit here next to you now. Remind us, Ivor, where can the guys find you on social media?
Thank you so much, Ryan. On social media, on Instagram, you can find me at Ivor Dean. On Twitter, you can find me at Ivor Swartz. At Medium, if you blog on Medium, you can just find me at Ivor Swartz there. And Facebook Ivor Swartz, and that's it. Yeah.
Great. If you guys have a look at my Facebook or Twitter accounts, you'll see I've posted Ivor's contact details there. Ivor, great to have you with us this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ryan. This was an absolute honor for me as well. Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys. That was Soapbox Radio. Really enjoyed my time with you this afternoon. Looking forward to speaking to you again next week. That was Soapbox Radio, and I'm out of here.
You've been listening to Soapbox Radio, potting it out there with my Lime Boots. Find My Lime Boots on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. At My Lime Boots, and on YouTube. At My Lime Boots Live.